Hello, everybody. Boy, do I have a treat for you today. I'm going to cover, I'm going to read to you one of the lesser known, but more entertaining and I think enlightening Bible verses or Bible stories. This is the story of the 200 foreskins from 1 Samuel 18. Saul resents David. Now, when he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Saul took him that day, and would not let him go home to his father's house any more. Then Jonathan and David made a covenant, because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan took off the robe that was on him and gave it to David, with his armor, even to his sword and his bow and his belt. So David went out wherever Saul sent him, and behaved wisely. These people have a different idea of what wisely means. And Saul sent him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. Now it had happened as they were coming home, when David was returning from the slaughter of the Palestine, slaughter, Philistine, slaughter, Palestine. Some things never change. Anyway, when David was returning from the slaughter of the Philistine, the women had come out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing, to meet King Saul, with tambourines, with joy, and with musical instruments. So the women sang as they danced, and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands. Then Saul was very angry, and the saying displeased him. And he said, They have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed only thousands. Now what more can he have but the kingdom? So Saul eyed David from that day forward. He's getting suspicious, he's getting jealous, paranoid. It happened on the next day that the distressing spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied inside the house. So David played music with his hand, as at other times, but there was a spear in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the spear, for he said, I will pin David to the wall. But David escaped his presence twice. Now Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him, and had departed from Saul. Wow, this sounds like a kind of a love triangle. Therefore Saul removed him from his presence, and made him his captain over 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people. If you're afraid of him taking your throne, why would you give him command over a bunch of warriors? Anyway, and David behaved wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Therefore, when Saul saw that he behaved very wisely, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, because he went out and came in before them. David marries Michal. Michal is a girl's name in this case. Then Saul said to David, Here is my older daughter, Merab. I will give her to you as my wife. Only be valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul thought, Let my hand not be against him, but let the hand of the Philistines be against him. So he wants to get David murdered, but he doesn't want to do the dirty work himself. Okay. So David said to Saul, Who am I, and what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be the son-in-law to the king? But it happened at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, she was given to Adriel, the Mahalathite, as a wife. Now Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. So Saul said, I will give her to him, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Therefore Saul said to David a second time, You shall be my son-in-law today. And Saul commanded his servants, Communicate with David secretly, and say, Look, the king has delight in you, and all his servants love you. Now therefore become the king's son-in-law. So Saul is yet another scumbag, loser, liar, deceiver. The Bible is just a bunch of stories of people deceiving. And these are are role models. They're role models for some people. Can you guess who? So Saul's servants spoke those words in the hearing of David, and David said, "Does it seem to you a light thing to be the king's son-in-law, seeing I am a poor and lightly esteemed man?" Lightly esteemed? Everyone's cheering for you for killing tens of thousands. What? Anyway, and the servants of Saul told him, saying, "In this manner David spoke." Then Saul said, "Thus you shall say to David, the king does not desire any dowry, but 100 foreskins." Oh, now we're getting to the juicy part. Gets me every time. I just can't believe I'm actually reading this. And we're supposed to take this book seriously. This is the Word of God. What kind of God are we talking about here? The king does not desire any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines. I don't want gold, I want foreskins. To take vengeance on the king's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. So when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to become the king's son-in-law. Now the days had not expired. Therefore David arose and went, he and his men, and killed 200 men of the Philistines. And David brought their foreskins, and they gave him in full count to the king, that he might become the king's son-in-law. Then Saul gave him Michal, his daughter, as a wife. Thus Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him. And Saul was still more afraid of David. Talk about a plan backfiring. So Saul became David's enemy continually. Then the princes of the Philistines went out to war, and so it was, whenever they went out, that David behaved more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name became highly esteemed. So what is the moral of this story? I guess you could argue that it's that you should overachieve, do more than what is expected, go above and beyond. But I feel like that message could have been conveyed by saying, Saul asked David to build a wall 5 feet tall, and he built one that was 10 feet tall. The moral of the story, do more than is asked of you to impress your superiors, or something like that. But no, it's got to be foreskins. This is mental illness. The people who wrote this were fucked up in the head. And if this ever happened, which it almost certainly did not, but if this ever happened, the people who did this were completely mentally ill, and they deserve 0 respect, 0 admiration, 0 regard, 0 taking serious. We should not be taking this book seriously, just based on this one passage alone. But, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of passages, verses, that should cause us to throw this book in the trash. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Oh, and if you want to see an animated version of the story, that's completely hilarious. You should check out Dark Matter 2525. I'll put a link in my description. Hilarious. It's one thing to hear the story, it's another thing to see it.